Hi, what's up everybody? I'm the SolidWorks nerd, and today I have something pretty special. We have our very first request, and the request that I got was right here, King Dedede's mask from Kirby Triple Deluxe. And I have to admit, at first when I saw this, I didn't think too much of it. I thought wouldn't take me too much time, but this has been one of the most challenging things I've done in a long time. So yeah, thank you for that challenge. This was really cool, and I'm really excited to show you what I did. So yeah, let's stop delaying and just get right into it. So here is my final product over here, a mask, and you can see there's a whole bunch of folders, and hey, let's just get rolling. I'm gonna try. You want to expand all those out. There's quite a few features, lots of things I had to go through. Okay, so first thing I did was, of course, I kind of started off with the sketch, just kind of get the general shape of it, and this is the only picture I had to work off of. There was not very many reference photos, so I did this completely by looking at this picture over here. So just trying to get the shape, so I modeled this as a spline, and then it like angles out, and then kind of an arc there. So that's what I have over here. So this first boundary surface was kind of you know, a lot of these things I just don't know where to start, so just start somewhere. Yeah, what I did was using the sketch that I had laid out, I actually copied it over so I could have this. I could have this as a separate sketch so I could refer back to it. But yeah, I just made a 3D sketch here, a sketch on the right plane over here, and another 3D sketch to seal it all together. And that made our very first boundary surface. And then I'm just kind of with 3D sketches bridging to the next surface. So this was not this is from the original sketch that I made. This is a 3D sketch, and I just kind of played with the drag handles and the spline just to see it was just right, make it just right. Yeah, I trimmed this part away because I'm going to cut in a way like this in order to make the top part of his mask. So my goal is to model through it like this and kind of ignore like the jagged tooth thing he's got going on, because I'll just cut that when it's a solid body. That's no problem at all. So that's the entire goal here, is just to model the top half of the mask. So just keep going like that. Another boundary surface. Yeah, sketch on the right plane, just placing those, you know, as best as I could do it by eye, and admittedly I had to go back and adjust this because the mask just looked kind of wonky. So there's that. I just keep progressing, knit all of these together, and I noticed that the surfaces didn't look too good crossing over this boundary as well as this one, and I can actually turn on zebra stripes and just show you that. So you can see no continuity at all, did not look very good. I also tried to change the settings from boundary surface, which is the first thing I would recommend you do if you encounter something like this. It didn't help very much. I mean, the zebra stripes did connect, but they were all pooling up right here. So just not good. And over here, it's just discontinuity made from this jagged edge over here. So what I did was, I'm going to turn zebra stripes off. I swept a surface, and actually I just used a new feature in 2016 where you can hit circular profile, because I just need to cut stuff away. Circular profile and only pick the edge, and I put 750 thou just to cut off enough, and just for reference. No, I don't think I described the sizing. I made the whole thing about a foot in diameter, just kind of around that circle. I mean, of course, later on I use scale to make things right, but that's what I'm working off right here. So I extend the edges of those cylinders because they didn't cut through the surfaces enough, and I don't think I had to do that, but I just did it just to make sure. And then I just use a surface trim to cut all the stuff away, and then I just hid that away. Then I use the boundary surface to clean that up, and now we can look at the difference with the zebra stripes. They flow nicely into each other. Nice smooth curves. And surface sweep, and that's going on over here. I extend the surface, so giving that cylinder a little extra extension. And just the same thing, cut out the stuff on the inside. And then boundary it up, patch it up. And that's looking much better. Also, I could have put a fillet over here, and I did try that. Earlier. The thing is, the fillet starts off at this radius and then comes all the way down to a point. I didn't like having that three-sided surface, so I just cut it away and made it a 4. And then you knit it all together. And this is where all the easy stuff ends, because what I would have liked to have happened was I just thickened this without problems, but I'll show you what happens. Thicken, where are you? There you are. So if I thicken like that, and then I wanted like 1/2 inch thickness. So it gives me a preview, but there is some funky stuff going on here, and of course SolidWorks will not have that. Yeah, that is some strange geometry right there. So I had to do the thicken manually, and I'll just show you how I did that. Conveniently, there is a folder that I put all the features in. So yeah, that's just my general technique. I make the surface that looks like the thing I want, and then I thicken it, in the case of something like a mask. But for that, I start with this edge over here, because when I look in this picture, that's one of the more prevalent surfaces. When you look at it, it really gives the illusion of thickness, because it is thick. So I just wanted to make sure that this surface, definitely out of all of them, looks right. So I'm building all my thickness surfaces out of this one. So in order to do that, I just have a ruled surface. So in that, you just pick an edge. You pick an edge, and in this case, I did taper to vector. You pick a direction, and I picked the right plane, and I just played with the degrees, the angle of it, till it looks just right. And I thought to myself, that looks pretty good, and I'll click OK. So with that, I just start on more ruled surfaces. For some reason, I wanted to go back here. That's fine, doesn't really matter. And I just kind of populate that throughout the edges, and you can see there are some garbage geometry we'll have to deal with. Like you have to miter these two together so they'll fit nice and neat. There's some trimming business that needs to go on here. And yeah, so I think I start some of the trimming. Yep, just standard stuff. I just extend the surface and then trim them both off, and then you can see there's a bit of garbage geometry we have to deal with. But for now, I just knit it together. And to fix that, here, I'll do an instant replay of that. I just do a surface extend up to a point, and I pick this vertex as the point. So it means we still have stuff to do over here, and there's not lining up over here either. We'll deal with that too. Surface extend 6. Yeah, we're gonna trim that out. 2 surface extends, make them cross each other, and you just trim. And these kinds of trims, these are the mutual trims. Pick both of these ruled surfaces and just remove the selections. not too bad. Alright, surface extend number 8. Okay, so let me see exactly what that does again. Okay, so looks like it wasn't quite matching up in this area, so I just extended the surface. More knitting. Yeah, and some people don't like to do this, but I like to knit as I go along, because that way I can catch when two surfaces aren't lining up very good with each other. Like if the gap is too big to close, then I can go back and fix it rather than do all these surfaces and then you have like 23 surfaces at the end and you knit them all together and then you find out there's some gap that happened way back when and just causes problems to fix. Anyway, that aside, I just kind of extend the surface here. I'm just like fixing up the border. Yeah, you see how it's not lining up again? It's that whole issue that it just didn't line up. It's just propagating through. But that, well, thankfully it stops here because I'm going to do a lofted surface. Now we'll just patch this up when it's all said and done. Yeah, so I cut that out, but I'll roll that back up just to see what I did. So you see this is like overlapping each other. It's going to cause major, if I don't fix this or try and do some weird patch job right over it, it's going to cause some major problems when we try and knit this all together. So I just cut the areas out, and I did that with just a sketch on the right plane. Yeah, just 2 lines like that. Here, I can show you. Other way. And come back. There we go. Just like that. And the surface trim will take this stuff out. And then I just lofted over. I could have done a boundary surface too, but feeling the mood for a loft. Yeah, for boundary surface, I like to make sure I have all sides of the surface patch in the model. But for this, I didn't have the patch over here, so I just did a loft. Works just fine. And the other loft happened over here, so thankfully I didn't do a ruled surface here, or else I have to keep extending across everything. So there you go. Surface trim. Okay, so here I start with the miter. So I draw a line just like that, and I make sure it goes through the intersection of these 2 lines and that point. And I can actually get into the sketch a little bit. But what happened here, I'm gonna like that and come back to us. Yeah, I just put a point and just made them coincident to each of these lines, and then coincident to this newly drawn line as well as that. So that is the basis for our miter. So just standard stuff, just trimming all that garbage out. Okay, and also another thing that happened, it looks good, right? Yeah, but uh-oh, that's no good. Yeah, this is the kind of thing that causes problems when you try and knit, and this is very important whenever you're surface modeling, is that you keep on the lookout for this kind of stuff over here. Yeah, and this is not directly patchable with like a filled surface or something like that. So what I do, cut all of this out, and I just loft them together. So yeah, it just curves a little bit, but it meets it right when it needs to. Okay. So loft 4. Oh yeah, I just start patching this up over here. So before, it's just this inner surface over here, and I have the thickness surfaces there. Now I'm just closing it all up, and this is what took me the most time. because it sounds quick when I just lead you through what I did, but figuring it out was a little bit longer. This model took me about 3 hours. So there you go, I just keep lofting together. I think I tried to loft this entire thing in one piece, but it was just giving me a whole bunch of wonky geometry, and yeah, when you see something like that, it means you're trying to do too much with one surface, and you just gotta let it relax a little bit. Put out more surfaces to do the job. So 3D sketch. I may have just put a point somewhere. Should have become apparent. Oh, it's gone now. That's strange. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, there's no tangency or curvature continuity for sure over here. But since this is the back of the mask, I just took as much liberties to make sure the surfaces could solve as easily as possible. So I just keep lofting, and the last one, since I have a 4-sided surface, I close it up with a boundary surface, but I pulled that down too fast. Close that down with a boundary surface. So yeah. Okay, and here's like another issue I ran into. So at this point in time, I tried to thicken it and got "you have a gap" error, and of course it points it out, and it's pointing to right here. If you look in there, that's some strange geometry. Like there's a face there meeting with that. No good. So what do? Basically the same thing I did over on the front side of the mask. Another sweep, just a really small circle though. Will help me trim that out. Yeah, and then I get rid of this too, because I think it just made it a lot easier for me to come up with a patch to get that out. Oh yes, so yeah, this is kind of some strange geometry. Not the prettiest looking thing, but definitely for the back I think it'll suffice. So just to solve out this extra, there's this extra edge that I wanted to patch up. So I start this 3D sketch on that point over here. Yeah, I'm just closing this up, and this is a really skinny 3-sided surface is what that is. So that takes care of that. So with that, I do a boundary surface to close that back up, and I guess it was feeling the mood for another loft to close up this little strip. And then with a closed volume you should be able to knit, and I finally was. There you go. So yeah, that took me that took the bulk of the time over there, was manually thickening this. And of course the knit tool for some reason didn't want to create a solid. So here, now the thicken comes in and just says, oh, you have an enclosed volume, let's bring it into solid land. So at this point I'm going to close these folders, just make the tree a little bit more parsable. At this point it was time to mirror over, so especially when I'm modeling stuff like this, it's kind of tough to see like how long you are making things. It's like when I was making the tracer goggles in the other video, it's just hard to get a grip on the right proportions when you're working on half a thing. So here's the thing. I did try and mirror it over, and it was just looking too long. And actually, I could probably show you that really quick. So I'm just gonna do that, mirror. I'm not gonna solve it out with right plane, but you see that looks quite strange. So what I did to mitigate that and actually kill two birds in one stone. So the other thing is, if you look at the right plane, there are things dipping in and out of the plane. So you see this vertex is going in, but then this face kind of dips beneath the right plane. Well, I guess on the right side of the right plane. But anyway, you try to mirror it like this, and it's not going to solve out because it's going to give you this zero thickness geometry because it's going to meet in weird places over here. So we need to clean up this edge. So kill two birds with one stone. So body, copy, and move. Moved it ever so slightly to the left. And I just split it with the right plane. And now look at that. Perfectly flat, beautiful faces to mirror about. Yeah, and that... Okay, so here I do the jagged tooth geometry. So going back to our reference picture, this thing over here. All I did was make a sketch on the front plane. Draw that. And you split and you consume that body that you make. And finally, you mirror this over. And since I'm always inspecting my work, and I always recommend you guys do this, just keep inspecting your work after every couple of steps, if not after every step, because I turned it around and found this. I'm like, oh, that's kind of strange. But delete face, being the beautiful tool that it is, just patch that right up, and I'll show you how that's done. I'll just delete the feature. So just boot up delete face. You want to go to delete and patch, and you want to delete the faces that, well, not to sound smart, but you want to delete that you want to remove from our model. So you pick this one and this one, not any of this stuff. And if you have delete and patch on, SolidWorks is smart and will know to extend these surfaces, trim them, knit them together, and bring it back into solid bodies as a solid body. Isn't that gorgeous? That delete face is a powerful tool. And there you go. Let's go zoom back a little bit, and I looked at it, it's like, oh, those proportions are quite strange. So I tweaked the scale a little bit. So there you go. And you can size this mask. Like if you were to somehow produce this in the real world and wanted to fit it to someone's face, you could use this scale feature right here and just tweak the proportions of it. So now I start with the bottom part of the mask, which was definitely a lot simpler. So I just start with, excuse me, I start with a spline on the right plane, going to the spline I had as a 3D sketch, and I just close those up and lop them together, making that surface. And just the same technique. I thicken it. Thankfully, it goes without issues, so that's very nice. So another thing that I did was the same issues come about. Hide. Yeah, since this isn't perfectly straight, when it thickens, it just basically takes into account the equation of the original surface and just offsets it a little bit. But what happens is this doesn't perfectly line up with the right plane, and I'm going to pull this out a little bit more. I'm going to highlight the right plane. You can see how that's being quite strange, and we can actually try and mirror this and see what happens. Pick the right plane, and we want bodies to mirror that. Yeah, it'll just do all that kind of weird stuff, and then you have to clean that up, and then, oh my god, what is that? And then, whatever. Yeah, just much easier. Just get rid of that. Yeah, what I did was extended this face using Move Face, which also a very nice tool, to make sure that all the geometry is on the other side of that plane. So Move Face to extend this out a little bit. And then I split with the right plane. Now it's perfectly flat. And with the mirror, That's what it looks like. You see we're getting a lot closer. And I combine things together. But, uh-oh, what is this? So this is the top part of the mask coming through the bottom part of the mask. Now, while I'm not too keen on making the backside picture perfect, I don't find this acceptable. So what I did was use the delete face, just basically selected that really tiny sliver garbage face, this wonky face, and hit delete and patch, and it just takes the surface, brings it over, cleans it all up. And as we can see, we're getting pretty close now. All that's left are the spikes. So with that, start with a surface loft, and technically I committed a faux pas. So this is a surface loft in a patch of 3 sides. This is a degenerate surface. Yep, that's right. And the degeneracy occurs right here. So I lofted between this and this, picked this as a guide curve, and the singularity is right here. But for something that isn't going to see a lot of change, and a surface as simple as this too, I think it's just all right. And of course, if I get the error that says unable to knit surfaces together, I'll know exactly what's going on. I'll cut that out, properly fill that. But I was feeling lucky and took my chances. So I mirrored that over, and I'm gonna hide this away. So just have that. I draw a line with this 3D sketch, fill that in, and thicken makes it a solid body. And as you can see, if I go up here, the only surface bodies are these are like the sweeps from last time. So yep, there it is. This is thicken number 3. Solved out just fine. Let's go back down. So, okay, so that's me starting the other loft, and let's bring back the other solid body. Let's bring back the other solid body so we can see where we're at. So, yeah, just kind of like a guess of like where the side spike is going to go through. Yeah, and just me making a couple of planes. I think I drew on this one. So the idea is I'm going to loft from a circle to a point and have a spline be a guide curve, so we can get just the right curve on that. You can see it looks pretty good, but the surface is coming out the other side. Thankfully, there's a tool for that, and that tool is surface trim. Remember, you can use surface trim with solid bodies. It's a cool feature. So the trim tool is this face, and of course you're just going to keep this part. So there's that, and I surface fill the other side, this inner circle, because yeah, remember, these are surfaces. You gotta fill them in. So there that is. Come back. So we can see getting a lot closer. Okay, so I did a move face, and I'll show you where I did that. It's on the spike. So I did a fill surface like this, but I didn't want to risk having any problems combining, just in case this surface doesn't exactly line up with the mask surface, which is very possible. So what I did was move the face back a little bit so it intersects the model just a little bit, so it'll solve out nice and neat. So there you go. And then finally it's time for the last spike that comes around in this area over here. So yeah, just basically the same thing I did over here. Yeah, with this circle coming all the way through. And I actually used body, copy, and move because when I looked at it, I was like, I didn't put it in the right place. So I just moved it around. That looks a lot better. Yeah, surface trim. Oops, went a little too far. Yeah, surface trim with the face. Surface fill makes it a solid. Move face so it intersects with the part. And then finally, we have all our required spikes to mirror and complete the part. Well, not quite, because as you can see, there's no object line over here. So we need to do a combine, and I do this in the folder called cleanup. So I do a combine and everything solves out just fine. And the last thing I do was delete these surfaces over to here, because I found out that when you put these on GrabCAD, you could still unhide them and while you're in the preview viewer, and that doesn't sit right with me. So I'm gonna be a lot more diligent and just clean up my space. And well, that's it for this rollback review. This was a fun one for sure, and for sure just look forward to new content in the future. I'll be posting more often now, and with that, have a good one.